All the social classes are suffering in this country.
There
is no possibility of continuing with this government.
For the third time this year, Brazilians take to the streets in massive protests against the government and President Dilma Rousseff. We examine Brazil's problems on this edition of The Heat. Hello and welcome. I'm Arnold Naidu in Washington, D.C.
The coup-mongering culture exists, but there are no conditions for that to happen.
Brazilian President Dilma Rousseff says she will not consider quitting despite an 8% approval rating, calls for early elections and her impeachment, with even some urging military intervention. Protests across the country signal growing unrest among the middle class about alleged corruption and lack of trust with the current government. We start with the view from the ground from CCTV's Lucrecia Franco. She's in Rio de Janeiro. And Lucrecia, these were major demonstrations. Tens of thousands of people took to the streets. What did you hear from the protesters?
Well, most protesters were shouting out Dilma, out the Workers' Party. They share the idea that the Workers' Party that has been 12 years in power has been too long, that it's time to move on, to change. And they blame both Dilma Rousseff and the Workers' Party for the corruption scandal and for the economic troubles. And well, actually, at center stage is the scandal at state oil company Petrobras that has engulfed leading politicians and construction barons. It was the jewel of the crown of Brazil, and now it was used to funnel millions of dollars to corrupt executives and to politicians from the ruling coalition and from the Workers' Party. And that is where Dilma Rousseff comes in, because she chaired Petrobras during 7 years when much of this corruption took place. She has not been involved, she has not been charged, and nobody has linked her to the corruption scandal. But people on the demonstrations say that she must have known what was going on. People are also angry because of the state of the economy. The inflation is high, unemployment is on the rise, the currency is in a 12-year low, so people are worried about the future. Support for her to end her term, that would be in 2018, could come from the business community, as political analyst Mauricio Santoro told us. Let's hear him.
Well, her most important hope to survive the crisis is the support of the business community. And of course, they are very angry with the economic crisis, but they also fear the chaos that could happen in Brazil with an impeachment, especially with this shady basis for the impeachment, and the possibility of a very high level of social conflict, as we see, for example, in Venezuela these days, and they don't want that. So this is Dilma's greatest hope.
So, Lucrecia, we have an idea of what the problems are in Brazil, but what do Brazilians want to see from Dilma Rousseff as they move forward? And is there a real chance that she could be impeached?
Well, to oust President Dilma Rousseff, there should be some kind of irregularity being proved that has not been proved yet. As we said, she has not been charged with any links to the corruption scandal at Petrobras. But if it happens, 2/3 of the Congress, of the lower house of Congress, that is composed by 513 members, should open hearings to impeach her. Then the vice president would take over, and a final decision would be reached either by the Senate or the Supreme Court. This will only happen actually if they find some irregularity. Anything can happen now. There's a turmoil now in Congress and in the relationship between Dilma Rousseff and Congress. So for the time being, it's not likely, but yes, it could happen.
Okay. Very quickly, Lucrecia, you know, Brazil hosted a very successful World Cup last year. It's going to be hosting the Olympics next summer. Is this political upheaval affecting preparations? Will it impact those games?
Well, of course, Brazil is not the same country that won the bid in 2009 to host the first Olympic Games in South America. It's full of problems now. Actually, on the demonstrations yesterday, a cycling test for the Olympics had to be changed. The route had to be changed in order not to clash with the demonstration. But there has been a lot of support here. Rio officials say the growing support in Rio citizens has grown to 75%, and the games appeal a lot to Brazilians in general. So it could be maybe a moment, a bright spot to better the mood in a darkening scenario.
Thanks, Lucrecia. That's Lucrecia Franco talking to us from Rio de Janeiro.